What's up guys, Gabe Sakala here, full-time real estate agent in North Carolina and South Carolina. And now that I am in my second going on third year in real estate full-time and I have made it my career, I wanted to detail into a video exactly how my first year went, how the licensing process went, what are some do's and don'ts, some things that I learned along the way, how much I made, and if I think it's plausible for you. Something that I didn't look to do in my real estate career is look to YouTube or look to a video to see if there were other 24-year-olds, 23-year-olds, or mid-20s, young 20s that were doing what I was doing. I couldn't find many that were doing it the traditional way. I saw a lot of wholesalers. That didn't really feel like my shtick. I really wanted to be part of the personal process, the actual move, the transition. So I want to detail exactly how I got into that, how I got into real estate, and how I went from zero to being a top producing real estate agent in a very short amount of time. So without further ado, here we go. I know most people who are in real estate do not start in real estate. There's another kind of career or some kind of other niche that they're in. They fall into real estate because of a number of things. And if that's you, you probably have a very similar situation to me or something similar. It might be a little interesting by the time we get into it. I went to High Point University and I graduated in 2022. I was studying entrepreneurship, social media, marketing, business, and I was trying to get an unofficial minor in acting. Did not, but I just took classes on the side. The dean of the school liked me a lot and he knew I worked very hard. So he just let me sit in on classes without credit. Where all of that was leading, at the time, I was one of the original fitness influencers on social media. I had about 25,000 followers. I'll put some pictures up here. Running a coaching business online with a bunch of plans. I had a website. I still have the plans, and if any of you want them, you let me know. But I was doing all these things with fitness, modeling, and I was trying to become an entertainer in this space, which is why I was taking the acting class. So to put all of that together, my goal was to get some kind of job in the marketing field. And on this side, while I had free time and was out of work, I would focus on my acting, modeling, and get all of that going. I ended up getting a really good connection in Florida that I had for about 3 to 4 years before I graduated college. He was an agent who helped create the careers of Ashton Kutcher and Vin Diesel. And I just thought that was like insane. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be working with this guy who, created these two incredible careers and more than that. So I applied to over 300 jobs in Florida just to get there, and they were all in the marketing space. And I happened to apply to a couple that were in real estate. I was going to be a real estate marketer for brokerages, for agents. That was kind of what I thought would be fun. I don't really remember what the thought process was, how to get into real estate, but I basically thought, okay, I like houses, so why not just try and get into real estate in that space. I was not thinking about being an agent. I had no interest in that. I just wanted to get into the space for the sake of marketing. So I ended up landing a job in Orlando that was a director of marketing position for a boutique brokerage in Florida, and it was mentored by the agent who eventually created the agency in Orlando. You can look him up and you'll probably find him. He was an incredible mentor. He knew a ton. And the reason I got that job was because I had 25-ish thousand followers on social media, and he liked the fact that I grew my own account and figured I could grow this account. So once I got that job, I started doing all the marketing for the company. I was significantly helping the growing process. We started with about 8 or 9 agents, and by the time I left, we had 22. So what I was doing was working. Looking back, I'm so thankful to have had the ability to, even if I wasn't going on listing appointments, I wasn't really seeing his behind the scenes work. I was seeing some of it, and I still to this day think in certain circumstances, what would this guy have done? I was in this job for about 12 months at this time. I realized, even though I had gotten a very significant raise, I got a 25% raise in the first 6 months of my career there. I started at 49 and I got up to 60 plus 5,000 in gas. So it was basically 65. About a year in at the job, I still am with the same girl that I met her first couple weeks in college. We've been dating ever since. And I realized I didn't want to take her away from her family and make her move to Florida. Her family lived in North Carolina, where I am now, and I didn't want to make her choose between her family and me. She has a really good family. So I tried to look at it from a mature standpoint. I have to either leave and continue what I'm doing here in terms of videography, photography, and kind of give up the entertainment for now, or I could just learn what my broker did, try to do it at the same capacity. And that's something I really went into real estate with the idea of. I saw my broker making all this money, and it seemed like he was working way less than I was working. And so I was thinking, okay, this is flexibility for a family. What if I can do this? March of 2023, I was 23 years old and I decided I have to get to North Carolina. I have to figure it out. I ended up getting a call from one of the agents at the company that I was with there in Florida. And he said, I love your positivity. I love your attitude. I would love to give you leads while I go away overseas with family for 5 weeks. He basically told me that he wanted to give me $20,000 of leads for free without any expectation whatsoever. And that's, to me, that's insane. And so I was overwhelmed. I was like super overwhelmed, but I figured this is my chance to get into real estate and get my toes wet before I moved to North Carolina. So I said, yeah, but the problem was I didn't even have my license. I didn't apply for the test. I didn't do any of that. So I ended up applying for the test in Florida, getting my license, I'd say in about 2 or 3 weeks. It was like lightning fast. Passed the first time in the exam. The course that I used was from the CE shop. I can put a link in the description or something, but that's what I used for the test prep. I didn't even read through the book. I really just did the test prep on the CE shop, went through all of the practice exams, made sure I knew everything I could, and then I ended up taking these leads. I remember showing up to my first house. I got the calls playing pickleball. It was like 9:30 at night. Got a Zillow call. These were Zillow leads that I was getting in Florida because at the time you could pay for them in Florida. I got the call. He wanted to see a property at 10 in the morning the next day. I would say the most stressful thing was the fact that I didn't know when I was going to get a lead. I didn't know when someone would come in and want to see a property. I didn't really know anything. I kind of just knew this is my job right now and I have to work this job. But if I get a call, how am I going to show this property during the day? How am I going to show it at night? And that really showed me, for any of you that are wondering if you can be a part-time real estate agent and succeed, I would say no. I would really say no. I think you need to have a situation where your real estate can be your full-time gig and you can take time off. I mean, it's right now, it's 12 p.m. on a Tuesday and I'm making this YouTube video. I mean, I don't need to be calling people right now, but I can tell you if I get a call right now from Zillow, I will pick it up and pause the video and then get back on the video. You need to be able to pause your life to do real estate. That was definitely the most stressful thing, just trying to manage my schedule. You're going to be getting bombarded with messages, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You get used to it, it becomes part of your craft. I was with the company in Florida for 15 months. I got lucky because if you have your license in Florida, you can transfer it to North Carolina and become a provisional broker in North Carolina without taking the test. You just have to pay for the association fees. I want to say like $500 to $800. So I was in that much. I ended up getting my license and I told my broker in Florida I was moving because family-wise, I didn't want to take my girlfriend away from Florida and I had to figure out how to succeed in North Carolina. And that leads me to something that my dad always said, and I've really honed in on during my real estate career, is necessity breeds opportunity. I was not going to go to North Carolina and have another job as a safety net to prevent me from grinding like crazy. Create a need to succeed, because if you don't have that need, you don't succeed. And I can tell you firsthand from everybody that I've seen who does real estate part-time, they don't have any need or any desire or that deep-rooted need to produce, or you're going to be on the street. If you don't have that, you're not going to do as well as if you did. So that's important, and you don't have to go cold turkey. Like I did 3 weeks of both and then switch. That might be for you, that might not be for you. But now I want to get into really how I started in the Carolinas, what I did to join a brokerage, how I decided which one was the best one. This is really important. I moved to a place where I knew nobody. I had no connections there other than my girlfriend and her family. I had a couple friends from college. So my connections in the area that I was, however slim that they may have been, were not going to be clients for real estate in the short term. I needed to figure out how to make money in the short term and succeed. And it is with one question that I asked every single brokerage. Instead of them interviewing me, I flipped the script. I knew I was going to make 6 figures in my first year. I was going to make 100. I had to do it. So I went in and asked the simple question with the premise, I am going to make 100,000 my first year. If I do everything you say, everything you advise, can I make 100? Is that plausible? And if so, How do I do it? And I can tell you only one company did it, and it's my company. I'm part of Stone Realty Group. They answered the question very, very clearly. All the other brokerages said, oh, go door knocking. I even had one tell me, get a phone book. I'm not even kidding. You know, it was always this grunt work that I didn't want to do. So I asked all the brokerages these things. This one brokerage happened to be a team. It wasn't the only team that I interviewed. And they told me very clearly, you're going to get a ton of leads. You'll be influxed with leads. These agents do this amount of business. You'll have no problem if you follow our strategies, and you can definitely do it. So it wasn't a guarantee that I was going to do that. It really wasn't. But they showed me a path, and I took it and ran with it and thought I had a plausible possibility of actually getting there. My goal was to make one sale in 3 months. Fast forward 3 months, I closed 2 deals on the exact same day, one day before 3 months. So I made $10,000, and that put me over because my monthly expenses were very low at that point. They're very low. Bear in mind, when I joined this business, it was not 2020 when everybody was selling in 2 days. That was not the case. Interest rates when I joined were very close to 9%. So it was a very challenging time to get into the market. So now that I've been in the industry for 90 days, I'm kind of getting the hang of things. I understand it a little bit. My schedule is becoming more routine. I had been waking up at 5 in the morning every day to work out. I wanted to make sure that my entire day was open. But I think my biggest mistake was appearing too green and being too excited. I try and create a Disney-esque experience. It's in my bio. I'll put the quote here. My quote is basically, it's by Walt Disney, and it says, do what you do so well that they come back and bring their friends. I want to create a meaningful experience for others. And at the beginning, I thought the more excited I was with them, better the experience was going to be. That's completely wrong. Some clients you can be like that with. A lot of clients view overexcitement and over positivity as being green in an industry. A $2 million client, a $400,000 client, and an $800,000 client, all that wanted to buy a house that week, tell me that they thought I was very nice, but I am too young to represent them in real estate. I was pinning it on myself as a defect that I couldn't overcome, that I'm young, therefore I cannot sell high-end homes, I can't sell million-dollar homes. But that's not the case. You're not too young. It's your presentation that matters a lot. So I didn't really have that confidence. And if you have the confidence to talk to your market, talk to your skills, give opinions on things, not just tell people that this is a wonderful house, they should buy it simply because it's the first house that they're seeing, you know, be more than a robot, that goes a long way. Fast forward to March of the next year. This is my first calendar year after I did those 2 sales in November. I didn't sell another home for another 4 months after that those closings. I had another 4 months where I made $0. I sold 2 homes in March, 5 in April, 2 in May, 2 in June, 3 in July, 5 in August, 0 in September, 3 in October, 0 in November, and 1 in December. I sold a decent amount of homes. I sold 24 homes and $9.3 million in sales volume that year. And at the end of the year, the point that you've been waiting for this whole time is I did make $100,000. I did make 6 figures that year. I just passed the limit. I made $103,000 in my first year in real estate as a 23 turned 24-year-old, and I didn't do anything fancy. You know, I didn't wholesale, I didn't cold call. All I really did was I joined a team, I worked my butt off, and I did my best to take every opportunity I could. I sold houses 2 hours away from me. I sold houses close. In terms of numbers, my least expensive house that I sold was $65,000. Floor in the inside was non-existent. There was just a big hole in the floor in the inside of the house. It was probably a 15 by 15 box for a house. Is very small. The most expensive was $870,000. The average price in my area is like $400,000, and my average price home that I sold was $360,000, I think was my average priced home. Now this year, it is currently August 26th. I've already well surpassed the amount that I sold last year. Last year I sold 9.3. I've already sold 10.8 this year. My average price this year is $600,000, coming from $360,000, and my most expensive home that I sold was $1.5 million. And I've sold multiple million-dollar homes this year. I sold 3 homes over $1 million, 2 in the 900s, multiple in the 700s. Okay, so I've given you a little insight into, well, I guess a lot of insight into my first year of real estate. And now I want to answer the question, do I think it's plausible for you? And what are the couple blueprints that I would say are most important to do the exact same thing as me, make six figures your first year in real estate, even if you are in a bad real estate market where rates are very high, inflation's high, cost of living is expensive, not a ton of buyers in the market. Number one, I would say, is you have to join a team when you start. You are not going to just instantly know a ton of people who are going to buy and sell unless you are famous already on social media, and you don't need that. You are going to need a team. So join a team, look up the best teams in your area, interview every single one, and tell them you're going to succeed. Make them know that. Something else, you have to be an eternal optimist in this industry. You are going to get a ton of rejection. This is what happened to me. A $2 million client I took to Starbucks 3 times in the same day. I drove them around for 8 hours and I showed them 8 houses. I planned the trip for multiple weeks. I let them drive my car when they had to go to the bathroom or something ridiculous. They ended up calling me weeks later after I had been giving them information for a long time that they appreciate all my info and negotiating a deal for them, but they're going to use someone else because I'm too young for them. That actually happened to me, and that killed my confidence. I was ready to just throw everything away. I wanted to quit. I wanted to give up. But I decided not to, because in the end of the day, you have to be able to find the positive in everything. I looked at that situation and said, okay, the positive of this is that I got to see $2 million houses and deal with a client who's in that price range. Another positive is if I didn't work with them and they didn't tell me I was too young to represent them, I wouldn't be aware of the fact that there's an issue that I am not working on. One more is just to be kind. Most people do not get the work done that they are asked to do. The world does not work how it should. If you reach out to an electrician or a plumber, 99% of the time for me, I feel like they don't even want my business. They're not even responding. And the same goes for most agents. Most agents put their responsibilities first and you second. You have to be the opposite. You have to be the game changer. You put them first. You are giving them a Disney resort level experience. You want them to feel treated like gold the entire process. And you want to make sure that you do so well that they would never walk away at the end of the transaction without giving you a good glowing review. It gives you such a sense of gratitude because you actually made a difference in their life. You know, the vast majority of successful agents are not 20. They are 30, they're 40, they're 50, 60. They have had decades of experience in an area, in a market. They know a ton of people, and because of all the connections that they have, they've done very well. I think I'm a good example that someone I'm really not that smart, guys. I'm not a genius. I just followed a couple strategies. I joined a team. I worked my butt off. I think you can actually follow these steps and succeed in real estate. So that's a little bit about my first year in real estate. I'm now in my second full year. I'm trying to succeed. I'll keep you guys updated, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks so much.